when you talk about Africa's GDP, it doesn't include Africa's informal economy. So when you talk about $3-4 trillion economy, you actually talking about $6-7 trillion economy, out of which 2 to 3 trillion is untapped. And what people don't realize is that the informal economy is actually very well organized, right? It probably employs 70% of Africa's workforce. So there is a lot of money flowing, and you have different types of tools like social lending, informal happening, basic savings under the mattress. And what if you could tap into that market and offering them the tool? And that's why by tokenizing gold and offering them gift gold international fungible token, we give the opportunity to any citizen of the continent, even if they're not part and included in the system, to still participate and create wealth, to have access to build savings and have control over your savings. We're slowly shifting back people's mindset to go back to the source, to what really has value. Africa informal economy is actually the real unicorn. Why? Because first of all, let's talk about market potential. Africa's informal economy is overlooked. And why is it overlooked? Is that based on the IMF statistics, World Bank, and so on, when you talk about Africa's GDP, it doesn't include Africa's informal economy. So when you talk about $3-4 trillion economy, you actually talking about $6-7 trillion economy, out of which 2 to 3 trillion is untapped. So what is very interesting and why it's the next unicorn is because whomever will have been able to capture this $3 trillion economy by putting the right tools in place will literally contribute to uplifting Africa, but more importantly, to unlock its potential. And what people don't realize is that the informal economy is actually very well organized, right? It probably employs 70% of Africa's workforce. So there is a lot of money flowing, and you have different types of tools like social lending, informal happening, basic savings under the mattress. And what if you could tap into that market and offering them the tool? And that's why by tokenizing gold and offering them gift gold international fungible token, we give the opportunity to any citizen of the continent, even if they're not part and included in the system, to still participate and create wealth. Because today the door is locked to them, right? Because of all the various KYCs and complexities to open a bank account. Now they just need a mobile phone. Look at M-Pesa, right? Moving, 60% of Kenya's GDP just because it offers the possibility of whomever has a phone to effectively participate. Think of those social community lending system where people meet once a month and put cash on the table to fund one of their members and take turns to do so. What if you put together a digital platform where you could effectively buy stable coins and even better, gold-backed tokens that keep their value over time and actually appreciates, right? And use that as part of the lending mechanism all on the blockchain with verifiability and so on. So for me, that's really where the power is gonna come from. And if you see even in Nigeria over the past 3 years, 5 unicorn were born. Why? Because they were mostly in fintech, by the way, and because they offered people who were previously locked of international modern transfer or accessing payments or trade now have an opportunity. So that's the next big thing. And we should definitely look and watch for it, because once people not just get financially included, but they now are given the opportunity to be financially and socially mobile. Why? Because we give them the possibility using blockchain as you tokenize assets, right? To have access to build savings and have control over your savings. Now you have the decent collateral to be able to borrow, to invest, to create wealth. And that's really the next big thing, in my opinion. Global finance implies infinite expansion. What do I mean by that? Because unfortunately, if you look at the global stock markets, it's roughly maybe 60, 70 trillion dollars. Right now, the biggest issue about that, if you look at the derivatives market, is close to $300 trillion. So what it really means, it means that we've created alternative products to fuel the growth, even if those alternative products were just for speculative purposes, not really impacting the real economy, but serving a very growth hungry set of investors to whom the promise was made of everlasting growth. And it's actually paradoxical, because when you look at how capitalism is structured, it's based on an economy of scarcity. So how do you technically want or pretend to offer infinite expansion where the premises and the foundational base of the model is based on finite resources, finite money, and at the same time, you print money like it's infinite. So this paradox needs to end, and that's why I'm a firm believer on tokenizing real-world asset. Why? Because you're no longer going to be trusting a piece of paper that people can print at will, and that are backed by nothing, on the precept that actually there's not enough of it, which was sold to us in the first place. What I see way further down the road, and that's why we introduce gold as a tokenized asset, available from as low as 10 cents for 1 milligram to anyone, anywhere in the world, is to kind of reshape the perception of, from a scarcity-based economy to an abundance-based economy. Why? Because at the end of the day, Mother Nature provides. And the gold has survived different monetary systems, different kings and queens and civilizations and so on, and it's still there. And we're still producing it. We know it's not infinite, but because people trust gold, we decided to do gold and tokenize. But then you'll do silver, then you'll do platinum, because all those key resources or lithium, etc., are needed for the economy. And when you tokenize them, you back it by something that has a utility that people really need and value. But let's look even further. Now we also can tokenize carbon credit. We can tokenize biodiversity. So we slowly, and this is why I love blockchain and decentralized finance, we slowly shifting back people's mindset to go back to the source, to what really has value. And then you tokenize biodiversity. You will tokenize water too. And then you have those shared concepts, those community, those commons that unite us as humanity and as we tokenize it, we're reshaping the definition of value for people to finally understand that what truly matters is the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, and the basic key resources that Mother Earth provides. And what is the conclusion of that, and why it's so important, is that from the greed of wealth accumulation, we will then ultimately realize as a civilization and as a species that the true wealth is provided by Mother Earth, and therefore we'll stop destroying it and self-destructing ourselves and putting the value where it belongs. And that's the socioeconomic and fundamental shift and the challenge of our generation, to restore this harmony between humanity and nature by using technology and finance to reorganize the value system and live at peace with one another, understanding the wealth of what we have, understanding that it's finite, but also putting value in trading what truly has value, not just derivatives of something that is backed by nothing, because we went so far from our roots that we might lose who we truly are. And with blockchain, tokenization, decentralized finance, is that unique opportunity for us to reshape the value and the economic system into what is aligned to our species and the environment we live in.